Travel Through Grief. Welcome to Travel Through Grief. I'm your host, Ellen Beckemeyer, and today's episode is called How to Pack When You're Emotionally Heavy. There is something uniquely exhausting about carrying emotional weight while still trying to keep moving, not just physically moving, emotionally moving, functioning, planning, showing up. And grief rarely arrives when life is calm. It usually arrives right in the middle of responsibility, right in the middle of the schedules in our lives. And before we begin, I want to acknowledge something special about today. May 19, it is National Roadie Day. Now what that means is, the people that load and unload for our concerts. Today is a day we are honoring the people behind the scenes in music and entertainment who keep the show moving. The ones carrying the equipment city to city, setting up stages, troubleshooting problems, working those long hours while most people only see the spotlight. So today, we salute all of you roadies. Thank you for the long hours, the miles, the heavy lifting, and the work most audiences never see. Thank you for helping create experiences people remember for the rest of their lives. Honestly, I think a lot of women understand roadie life more than they realize, especially women carrying grief. Because so many women spend years emotionally backstage, holding things together, managing the details nobody else notices, the setup, the teardown, the emotional labor. And grief makes all of it heavier. I think one of the loneliest parts of invisible labor is this. You can feel completely alone while surrounded by people. Roadies understand that. They can stand in packed arenas filled with noise and energy and still quietly miss home. And grieving people, they understand it too. You can sit at a family dinner and still feel emotionally disconnected. You can be at work, at church, at an airport, in a grocery store, and still feel like your inner world has shifted while everyone else continues their life normally, especially when you are carrying something painful privately. Years ago, I experienced that feeling while traveling in England. While I was there, a friend back home in Louisville was seriously injured. 2 days later, she passed away. I just remember how surreal it felt to be so far away while emotionally being pulled home. Here I was in England wanting to have fun, but yet all I could think about was wanting to go home. The world around me kept moving. Everybody kept sightseeing. The coffee shops were full. Conversations would continue. And internally, everything had changed. One of the things I worried about most was that I was going to miss the funeral. I was just completely shocked and terrified I was not going to be home in time for it. Thankfully, the funeral ended up being a couple weeks later. But that emotional suspension stayed with me, because grief while traveling feels very different. Your body is in one place, but your heart is somewhere else. You are physically present, but emotionally displaced. And there is something deeply exhausting about continuing to function while carrying emotional shock privately. That experience taught me something very important. Sometimes the issue is not weakness. Sometimes the issue is just capacity. I think many people today are emotionally overloaded, not because they are failing, but because they are carrying too much. The grief, the pressure, responsibility, and eventually even beautiful things can start feeling heavy. Dreaming, travel, even hope sometimes. It's so heavy. That is part of why this episode is called How to Pack When You're Emotionally Heavy. because there are seasons where even the idea of a bucket list can feel overwhelming. People talk constantly about reinventing yourself, starting over, finding yourself, living your dream. And while those ideas can be inspiring, they can also feel very exhausting to someone who is already emotionally overloaded. Sometimes grief does not empty us. Sometimes what it does do is overload us. We just have too many responsibilities because now our partner might be gone. Too many expectations, too many decisions. Eventually, we begin dragging our lives the way people drag overpacked suitcases through the airports. I've learned that in recent years. Heavy, awkward, exhausting. Anyone who has overpacked a suitcase understands this feeling. At first, it seems manageable. Then eventually you ask yourself, why did I bring all of this? Emotional life works that way too. At some point, grief quietly asks, what is actually necessary now? What belongs in this season? What can be set down? That can be uncomfortable, especially for women conditioned to carry everything gracefully. Many women were taught that strength means endurance, that love means self-sacrifice, that rest must be earned. So we continue pushing ourselves long after the body and nervous system begin asking for that relief. And eventually the exhaustion tells the truth. Burnout, decision fatigue, emotional depletion. There are people listening right now who are not weak. They are simply tired from too much for too long. And I think one of the most healing things we can do is stop expecting ourselves to move through grief the same way we moved through life before it. When there is grief, that grief can change the pace. It changes our tolerance, our identity, and especially our capacity. And maybe healing is not always about becoming stronger. Maybe healing is also about becoming gentler. Learning how to travel and pack differently. Some things are worth carrying. The love, memory, connection. But there are also things we were never meant to hold on to forever. That guilt, performing strength, everyone else's expectations, the pressure to prove we are okay. Sometimes healing begins when we unpack those things, one emotional suitcase at a time. I think that is why travel is such a powerful metaphor for grief. Travel reveals what matters. When you physically have to carry something, you quickly learn the difference between what is essential and what is excess weight. And grief teaches that too. It asks, what truly matters now? Sometimes the answer is smaller and softer than we expected. A slower morning, a supportive friend, a meaningful conversation, a short trip, a quiet life, one moment of peace. Sometimes healing starts there, not in dramatic transformation, but in reducing the load enough to breathe again. I think roadies understand something important about life. Even beautiful things become heavy if you never get to set them down. And grieving people need places where they can finally put some of that weight down too. This is part of what I hope this podcast becomes. Not pressure, not performance, not forced positivity. Just a place where people can breathe inside their experience. Because grief lives in ordinary moments. It lives in the airports, in traffic, in hotel rooms, and in laundry piles. And often the people holding the most together are the people nobody notices. The backstage people, the emotional roadies, the ones quietly helping everyone else continue. If that is you today, I hope you hear this clearly. You do not have to carry everything alone, and you do not have to prove your strength by exhausting yourself completely. There is wisdom in gentleness, slowing down, and definitely lighter luggage. There is a phrase I have been thinking about lately. You do not have to leave yourself to move forward. I love that because healing is not abandoning yourself. Healing is learning how to travel with yourself more compassionately, honestly, and gently. And maybe that begins by asking one simple question. What would feel lighter right now? Not perfect, not fully healed, just lighter. Maybe a little less pressure, a little more breathing room, a little less carrying. Sometimes that is enough to begin your healing. Thank you for spending this time with me today. And once again, happy National Roadie Day to all the backstage souls helping keep the show on the road. This has been Travel Through Grief, and wherever you are on the journey ahead, I hope you remember this. You do not have to pack everything to move forward. You just have to pack what matters. If this episode connected with you, I'd love for you to follow our podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who may need it. Those small actions truly help new podcasts like Travel Through Grief grow and reach more people. And thank you to everyone who has already listened, rated, reviewed, and supported this journey. I appreciate you more than you know. Until next time, keep finding your way forward.